Hi, everybody, and welcome back to 6 Minutes of Meaning, where I have been trying to, over the last number of weeks, come with a very brief 6 minute thought so as to enable us to find a little bit of inspiration in these challenging times in which we live. Of course, these are extremely challenging times with so many aspects of COVID impacting our lives. On Shabbat and Motzei Shabbat, we heard of the passing of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, and this is a terrible loss for the Jewish people and the entire world. Personally, it's a very sad time for me, and I'd like to attribute so much of my own learning, my knowledge, and my teaching to him. I'd like to dedicate today's class in his memory and honor. I did see that Pfizer, on some better news, announced that they had an over 90% success rate in developing a final stage for testing of a vaccine, of a very large-scale test group. That is a little bit of a silver lining on an otherwise bleak horizon. Let us hope and pray for better times. We jump immediately into our learning today, and we were talking about chesed previously, the concept of doing an act of loving kindness for somebody else. I want you to imagine that there is an individual who is sick in hospital, far away. You make a commitment that you're going to go and visit them, and you live far away. You have to free up time for this visit. First of all, it's a number of hours. You might want to bring them something. You go shopping for the special gift. It's searching down the right store. It's spending some of your money. Then you have the journey in. Eventually, you walk into the hospital. It fills some people with dread just walking into a hospital. The smell of disinfectant, the groans that you might hear from different people's rooms. And then as you navigate your way through what are seemingly twisting and turning rooms and halls and lobbies and floors of a hotel maze, you track down and you walk into your friend's room. Upon visiting your friend, you see their face, you smile at them, and you offer them the gift. And suddenly you realize that your visit is appreciated. And what washes over you is this incredible feeling of joy and happiness and fulfillment and deep, deep meaning. Now, you might have gone through a lot of hardship to get to that very moment. The hours out of your day committing to make that journey into the hospital, the spending of money on a gift, the tracking down the right store, the physical trek into the hospital, navigating the room. And for some reason, there is this moment of real joy that we experience and encounter, even after we've gone through a very difficult ordeal and process. And that joy comes from the joy of performing an act of chesed. There are moments in our lives, and this is a key strategy for defeating the lethargy, the negativity, those voices inside of us that say, you don't need to, no one's going to see, forget about it, whatever those moments are. An act of kindness, a loving kindness to somebody else, is an incredible, powerful moment where we can break down the negativity in our lives and really make an incredible amount of room and space and advancement towards touching on those finer moments. And so much of the chesed we perform is actually determined by our expectations in terms of how we will feel after the fact. What about when you don't experience pleasure? You do the right thing, you do something nice, and you don't experience pleasure. It all comes down to our expectations of what we are looking to get out of the experience. Let me share with you a brief story. There was a very challenged family living in Jerusalem. The father wasn't in the picture. The mother was on her own, raising many children, and she was struggling. She was struggling educationally. She was struggling as a single mom. She was struggling financially. And a school in Jerusalem, a girls' school, actually had dedicated one afternoon a week to performing an act of chesed. This is an incredible educational aspect of the school's curriculum. They finish early at 1 o'clock in the afternoon once a week and send the girls out to perform acts of chesed in the community. A group of girls volunteered to help clean up this woman's house. They entered and instead of coming back inspired, they actually came back dejected. They said that the apartment was such a mess, it was impossible to clean it up. There were 9 already started ketchup bottles that were out. There was no system of organization in the apartment. Even if they had washed, dried, and sorted through the laundry, there were no specific drawers for any of the children where any of their clothes would have gone. There were dirty dishes in every corner of the house. The children were not clean and their hygiene had not been kept up to standard. They were rude. And of course, the kids never wanted to go ever again. The volunteers of this school never wanted to go. The teacher came back, went over to another class and said to the children, who here would like to perform an act of chesed next week on your chesed afternoon, where you will get nothing back in return? This will be a no return kindness. You will not solve their problems. When you go back the following week, everything will be exactly the same. It will look like you were never even there the first week. This will be chesed for its own sake. You will get nothing. Who wants to come? There were even more volunteers in the second class than there were in the first. The second class went in, did whatever they could for their afternoon's volunteering, and they came back with a sense of elation. It wasn't the sense of accomplishment that the first group had expected, but rather their elation was because they were pouring out chesed to others who were desperately in need. And because of realizing the expectations going in of what they were doing and why, it allowed them to turn their souls on fire. They were elated. Expectation accounts for our response to our activities. If we are doing the laundry with the expectation of a thank you and appreciation, and it never comes, then laundry folding will become mechanical at best, resentful at worst. But if we can concentrate on the act of giving in and of itself as an end to itself, then we can find deep, deep joy in every moment of our lives when we give to another. Not so that we can necessarily get back, but the elation of doing something for the right reason. That's my idea for you this morning. I hope it carries you through the week. Chesed with no expectation of doing something other than because it's the right thing to do. Have a good week, everybody.